enough with this is he's had 3,000-yard rushing seasons. When it was 10 games, great. 16 games, okay. Now there's 17 games. Come on, I'm not a math man, but once you start averaging 100 yards a game, then that piques my interest. So right now I'd say it's not one of my choices, but above average. But if I had to say anything, he's good, especially the way he ended.
So Najee Harris, according to Doug Whaley, who was on with us yesterday, is a good player, but maybe slightly above average is kind of what Doug was saying there. And the deadline on his fifth-year option to pick that up is today at 4 p.m. And what you heard there from Doug was Najee was good in the second half of last season. That's not wrong. First 8 games last year, Najee Harris, 3.7 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. Najee Harris in the second half of last season, 4.2 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. But even the Najee Harris of the second half of the season, Dorin, it doesn't jump off the screen at me. Like the statistics, I never looked at him as an explosive player. 4.2 yards per carry. The reason why I'm not giving Najee the fifth-year option is because I think that kind of production is really easily replicated. I think James Conner is and was a better NFL running back than Najee Harris. James Conner didn't have the durability. He had injury issues out the wazoo in Pittsburgh. There's no question about that. He also averaged 4.5 yards a carry in a couple of years. So every time he toted the rock, he was more efficient than Najee Harris has been in his Steelers career, where his yards per attempt career average is 3.9. Last year was his best at 4.1, and even in the second half, when everyone thinks he was wonderful, it was 4.2. James Conner had 12 touchdowns in a season for the Steelers. Najee Harris's career high is 8. James Conner was a third-round pick. Najee Harris was a first-round selection. I say save the $7 million. You've got Jaylen Warren. Instead of picking up the option, when he's done after this year, you go out and you take a guy not in the first round, not in the second round, but later than that. Or you find a free agent who behind an improved offensive line, you don't have to pay all that much money, and you're still going to have success running the football.
I think that they think he's the vessel of what they want to do on offense. And not saying that Jaylen Warren wouldn't be a part of that. I think they look at them as a 1-2 punch for sure, but they look at Najee being the leader of how they want to run offense. And I think that if there's somebody championing for Najee Harris, it's definitely Mike Tomlin, but definitely Arthur Smith. I think he sees a lot of Derrick Henry and knows that that's what made him a successful offensive coordinator. I'm not saying that Najee's Derrick Henry at all, but I think that he sees a lot of what they did in 2019 with the Tennessee Titans in Najee Harris, and that'll be the vessel for them to run the offense that he really wants to run. So I think that maybe we don't value him as much. I think the Steelers really, really value him. That's why I anticipate them signing that today.
I get what you're saying. I don't know how they feel about him. I don't, because if they felt that strongly, I don't know why you'd wait until 4 o'clock today. I don't know why this wouldn't have just been picked up somewhere along the way. You know what I mean? Maybe that means nothing at all. Maybe they just want to announce it at 4. I don't know. We've also seen Arthur Smith, like last year, they had the first-round running back out of Texas, Bijan Robinson. They spread the ball around. Like, he was the primary ball carrier, but the second and third backs got a lot of run, and that's because they didn't have a Derrick Henry. So I don't know if he views him as the Derrick Henry guy or not, or if he just views him as a piece of the puzzle like he looked at Atlanta last year. The other thing is, and I don't know the answer to this, Najee Harris was not an Omar Khan pick, an Andy Weidel pick. If Kevin Colbert were the GM right now, I think, yeah, they'd pick up the fifth-year option. I don't know how Omar Khan views the running back position and if he's more modern about it. Because we know...
Good question.
Thank you. Kevin Colbert wanted to pay Le'Veon. Tried his darndest to pay Le'Veon. Le'Veon turned him down. He was going to be, for like a minute, one of the highest-paid running backs in football until I think it was Todd Gurley, like 2 days after that got paid. Like, they wanted to keep him around. I don't know if this regime looks at running backs the same way.
That is a good question.
I wish that I could say there's no way but I don't know. We're going to find out by 4 o'clock today how they view the running back position. I just don't think Najee's special, and that would change it for me. Like if you had Saquon Barkley for 3 years, it'd be easy for me. Christian McCaffrey, that'd be easy for me. I just don't look at Najee Harris and think he's rarely running away from people, and the line's been bad and the coordinator was bad. But with the line being better and the coordinator being better, I think you could plug in a running back and get similar production. And Jaylen Warren, I keep bringing this up too, he was more productive on a yard per carry basis last year than was Najee Harris. I'm not saying he's a better player, but he was definitely more efficient.
I'd rather lock him up for $7 million for next year than let him walk and then potentially have to pay him way more than $7 million and lock up that position knowing that I have Jaylen and Najee there for at least 2-3 years.
I think if you don't pick up the option, you're just okay with losing him. Like you're not, even if he has a great year this year, if you haven't picked up the option, I think you go into this year knowing it's going to be your last year, Najee Harris, which has some advantages. You could run him into the ground. It's not nice to the player, but it would benefit the team. Although I do think he and Jaylen have a nice 1-2 punch. You could rely on Najee Harris in a way that you might not otherwise have done so if you needed to preserve him for the length of some sort of contract. I also think he'd be pissed off for greatness. I think you would get the most motivated version of Najee Harris that you could possibly ever get.
Yeah.
When he's singing for his supper and he's playing for a new contract, not here in Pittsburgh, but someplace else. Now, could I also see that going the other way and he becomes a malcontent? Sure. But, buddy, you better prove yourself again, because if you don't, you're not going to be a hot commodity come free agency. We did see some running backs get paid this offseason. I haven't thought about it from this perspective. Does Najee want the fifth-year option to get picked up?
I would if I were him. I mean, there were some running backs that did get paid, but not like insanely, not what they probably should. And he was kind of in the forefront of that conversation with Saquon Barkley. And I would want to take some money just in case, just in case they do try to run me into the ground.
And any hit could be your last.
Yeah. I mean, does he fit other people's systems too? Like he fits Arthur Smith's system. Like, is he going to be a commodity on the market for any other team that wants a big back? Not many teams want big backs.
So here's what I'm thinking, right? And you're right about that. Josh Jacobs is different because he's not.
I mean, he's not big.
He's Josh. He runs hard though. Yeah, you're right. But I think about what he's making now: $12 million a year.
I mean,
Joe Mixon now with the Texans. $9.8 million. Now, it falls off real quick after that. Derrick Henry, 8. DeAndre Swift, 8. Tony Pollard, 7-2 now with the Titans. Aaron Jones, James Conner. A lot of those guys I just mentioned just got new contracts, all for more years than just one. Not guaranteed money, but at an average annual value higher than what Najee would get in his fifth-year option. So I could definitely see it both ways from Najee's point of view. All right, you don't want to give me the fifth-year option? Fine, I'll go bust my ass, and I'll get a contract that's going to pay me 2, 3, 4 years at $7 million plus. But you're also one hit away from let's say Najee, knock on, I don't want to see this happen, knock on wood, like he blows out his knee.
That's it.
You ain't getting nothing.
I mean,
now.
what's the franchise tag for running backs? You could still franchise after the fifth-year option.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if the franchise tag is probably around 10, or in the middle of like what who wasn't making $12 million that you said.
So it'd be $12 million.
Okay, I'm gonna get
11.9.
I'm gonna get $7 million next year for sure. Running backs aren't valued, and then I could possibly franchise tag. I'm taking that all day. So the next 2 years after this year, I'm kind of locked up.
So what should the Steelers do? That's Najee's perspective. What do you want them to do? Do you want to see them pick up his fifth-year option by 4 o'clock today? 412-928-9370. This will get the people going. I'll just say it right now. I don't think he's very good. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's a useful player. I think he's been good in spots. I think he was good down the stretch last year for the last 3 or 4 games. But I don't think he's a special player. I don't even think he's all that good.